This is Revit for Interior Designers, week 1, and I will begin with a tour of the Revit interface. I've launched Revit 2020. This is the home screen once you chose File New and open an architectural template. If I choose the File button here and choose Options, here, this is how often Revit will automatically save. So every so often, at these intervals, you'll get a reminder that Revit wants to save, and you can choose to obviously save your project at that time. Here, under User Interface, at the top of the screen, there's a bunch of tabs here. So these tabs reflect what's happening here on your interface. So I have currently turned off mechanical, electrical, and plumbing because that's out of the type of work I typically do. Here I've got massing and site turned on. I've got structural turned on. I've got architecture tab turned on. Nothing else is turned on. And that limits the number of tabs that are across the top of the screen here. I want to make sure this menu here is as small as possible. I don't want to crowd the list with other unnecessary items. So that's what I have turned on here under User Interface. Under File Locations here, this is the list of the templates that show up at the beginning when you launch Revit. Now, I chose architectural template, and I used the up arrow here, and I moved it to the top of the list. Therefore, when you start Revit, for the first time, architectural template will be at the top of the list. And then these fall beneath, construction, structural, mechanical, because I probably won't use those. So under File Locations, you can click on whichever one you want, use the up arrow, and move it to the top of the list. So for example, structural, up, 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 it becomes the top of the list, but actually I want architecture up there. So I will select that and move it up. I will then have structural, construction, and mechanical. So let me close this project. Here's this one tab open, little X here. I'm going to close this project. You can also do a file close here. It simply closes the current project you're in, or you can do it here. We'll talk about this in a second, but I'm going to close it here, file close. I'm back to the home screen. So notice that when I go File New, here's New, not Families, Models. Revit are creating models. New. Architecture is first because of the work we just did in the Options menu. Architecture template, hit OK. It creates an architectural-like interface as opposed to a contractor's interface for construction or a structural engineer's interface for structural. So we want architecture at all times. We're going to start a brand new project. Don't use template. Here, hit OK. Again, don't use these icons here because they're shortcuts and can do some damage. If you're in an office that's sharing files in what's called a work share environment, never use these shortcuts unless you're working solo. I'm going to start a project here. Done. Okay. Here we are in the interface again. So this is probably the scariest thing you'll ever see, a blank screen. There's nothing here you can don't know where to begin. You're an author writing a book and you don't know what the first sentence is going to be. That's where you are right now. This is AutoCAD's or Autodesk Revit's workspace. I'm using my mouse wheel to zoom in and out. I'm holding my mouse wheel down to pan left and right. So these arrowheads, here, 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 and here, are actually cameras. Let's call them cameras. They're actually elevation tags. But when you double click on one of these arrowheads, it will launch a camera looking at something in this downward location. Your drawing should be located here in the middle of the screen. Now these cameras can be dragged and moved around, and if you're familiar with AutoCAD, very similar. You drag a window, click and hold your mouse button down, drag a window around it, and you put the mouse on top and you see a move command shows up and you move it around. You can put them wherever you like. So if you draw something that's bigger than the space allocated here, you drag a window, click and hold your mouse around the icon and you move it around. So this here is what's called a view. So this is where you're doing most of your drafting. Your elevations appear here, your floor plans appear here, so on and so forth. this tab here in 2020 is a tab of the current view you have open called Level 1. So I'm going to start at the top of the screen and work my way down and talk about what you're looking at currently. So at the very, very top, these are all shortcuts, and you may be familiar with these. There's File Open, there's Save, here's some favorites. Undo when you screw up your project. Here, you go backwards, you undo your project, or Control-Z, and that will undo the last thing you did. If there was a mistake, you can print here. This was very useful. That right there, little tape measure. You pick 2 points, it'll measure how far they are between. When you hover over the icon, it'll give you a little video tutorial, and the help menu is pretty helpful in Revit as well. Some of these I'll skip over if they're not relevant yet, or we'll talk about them more in depth in future classes. There's a text command here. There's a little 3D house right there. I'll walk you through what these do when I open up the sample project. So for now, I'm just going to quickly do a sort of a cursory review of what these are. Here's the line weights, line thicknesses here. And again, I'll come back to these. So you got shortcuts here. You got tabs across here. Each tab has a group of commands. So if you're building something, you're going to be in the Architecture tab. If you want to include some structural elements like beams and joists and whatnot, they're under Structure tab. Structure and steel, they come together with the structural components here. Insert, you want to bring something into Revit from the outside, a JPEG, a PDF, AutoCAD drawing, you're in the Insert command. You're inserting something into Revit. So always look here. So my goal is to make sure you all understand not necessarily what the specific command is called, but where to find it if you were searching for a command that does something you're looking for. If you're looking for something to get brought into Revit, always look into Insert. And you'll get a variety of tools here that inserts things into Revit. Annotate, if you're looking to add notes, dimensions, tags, information of some sort into your Revit project, you're annotating the project. You're tagging the project. You're adding legends and notes and what have you. So if you're looking for that type of tool, you're looking in Annotate. So Architecture is building 3D models of some sort, whereas Annotate's adding notes and dimensions, things that are not 3D models. We're going to skip Analyze. Again, I'm skipping things that we're not going to really are relevant to us. Masking and Site is used for exterior landscaping, creating site plans, topography, that type of thing. Again, we're not going to spend time on that, but in case you were interested and you want to do some kind of exterior work, look under Masking and Site. Collaborate is where you would use this. You'd use this if you're in an office environment and working on a team-based project. So we're going to skip that for now. View. Again, what you see here on the screen is called a view. So the View tab somehow, some way, creates views. It manipulates what views are on the screen and somehow creates new views for you. So these tools here have something to do with affecting this central screen here and how it's viewed by you, the user. So we'll come back to that. Manage is basically you're under the hood of the software and doing customization. Like AutoCAD, you can customize line weights, you can determine layers and things, you can format text. There's all kinds of tools in AutoCAD, for example, that you can manipulate the programming somehow, way, shape, or form, like setting up imperial units versus metric, for example, and that type of thing. They're all under Manage. We won't be spending much time there. That's more of an advanced topic. The rest of these things here are add-ons. I mean, add-ons is where you add plugins to Revit. And again, we're not going to talk about that. I've got 2 plugins here that got installed that, again, we don't really cover. But Enscape, I might give you a preview of Enscape. It's a 3D add-on to Revit that lets you tour your model like a video game. It's very, very useful in the design process. I'm going to skip those two, though, and go to Modify. You want to change something? You're going to modify it. So normally what you're doing is you're building something or you're modifying something. So Architecture tab and Modify tab are the lion's share of your day. That's where you're going to be spending most of your time. And then you might be doing things like annotating your drawings after the fact. Okay, this is called a ribbon. So every tab has a ribbon like this. Ribbons have all your tools. And again, Revit is a 3D building modeler. So all these tools make perfect sense to us. Things like walls and doors and windows. Some of the commands might not make a whole lot of sense just yet. Components, for example. But if you are using AutoCAD parlance, you're going to call that a block or an XREF. It's akin to a block in AutoCAD. Got columns and rows and ceilings and floors. So as you're building, you're going to look for the particular icon that creates the object you're trying to develop. AutoCAD calls those objects elements. You're building a floor, you're building a floor element. You're building a wall, you're building a wall element. So the elements you're building are all listed here. They're under these panels. Here's the build panel. All these models here are under this little title called build. So if I talk about panels on your ribbon, I'm talking about these groupings. Opening, panel. These things here make openings. For example, datum panel. This is where you set up column grid lines and floor levels and what have you. So ribbon is where we will spend a great deal of time under the Architecture tab, probably under the Build panel. I am not going to show you how to use every single icon here. It's not the goal of this course. The goal of this course is to get you into Revit from an interior design standpoint. You're working with an architect, perhaps. They've given you a model, and you have to do your end of the work using their model, for example. Or you have to build a project from scratch using Revit. And so I'll only cover the topics that are that will help you achieve those goals. These two here on the left side of my screen are probably the most important tools in Revit. Without them, you're dead in the water. You cannot accomplish work without these two. This is called Properties. This is called the Project Browser. And it does not matter if you have Revit 2021. You can open my project files, but when you do, you're stuck in 2021. It'll transform it into a 2021 file. I'm answering a quick question. Anyway, Properties and Project Browser. Properties. I remember that BIM, or Building Information Modeling, the I in BIM is information. This is where it's stored. Everything you select has information. And sorry, no, you cannot save your projects backwards from a new release to a previous release. Revit is not backwards compatible. You're stuck in whatever release you're in when you hit save. Okay, so properties, this is the data. Everything you select has data behind it, information behind it. If you've selected nothing on the screen, then this information describes data of the screen itself, of information that's appearing on the screen. Not the element, not the wall, but the entire screen. So if you're looking for information on the screen, you're looking here, but when you select something, it'll give you data, information on what you selected. This is hugely important, this menu here. Below that menu is the Project Browser. It's your tour guide. It's your Windows Explorer directory, right? When you're looking through your folders. It gives you access to all the drawings in your project. Now, Revit doesn't have drawings. I mean, you produce drawings when you print. Revit has views. So you might have a floor plan view, an elevation view. So this menu navigates you through all the drawings, views that Revit produces. So whatever's highlighted or bold here is currently active. I'm currently on the level 1 view because right here it says so. Floor plans, level 1. Out of the box, Revit gives you 2 floors, and you're on the first floor, level 1. And I'll show you where that is in a second, and we'll talk about how to manipulate that if you need to add more floors. If these 2 are closed, because you didn't believe me that they were important, and you closed them, either intentionally or by mistake. This in here, this one, and this one. And please confirm you guys can hear me. I just want to track that my speakers are still working and the sound is still coming through. Okay, good. So this and this will close these menus. Do not do that. But if you do, you go to View, you go to User Interface, and you make sure that Project Browser and Properties are always turned on. Do not lose these 2. Okay, this is the view again. At the bottom of the screen, bottom left-hand corner of the view screen, you've got some tools here at the bottom. They control the view. These are all view controls. They control what you see here in the view. We'll walk through what those do. As I'm building a project, we will use the commands in those areas that are useful to you. And I won't migrate beyond that because otherwise we'll spend much more time than we have allotted for this class. On the right-hand corner of the screen at the bottom, there's like these little tools here. There's a tray of tools down there again. There's also more object display tools that are available. So we're not going to discuss those until the time comes when we're working on the project, and I'll walk you through which one of those might be most useful. So there's menus here at the bottom. There's all types of interface-related tools here. Up here at the top right, there's even a place here where you can log into your account. Here, I've signed out. I'm signed in currently, but you want to sign into your account when you're in Revit to access the cloud rendering services. We'll have a class based on that as well. So you should always be logged in. Once you're logged in, your name will appear under File, Options. Your name will appear right here, username, right there. Once you're logged in to the account. And it gives you access to the cloud services. Later this year, it'll give you access to Revit. Revit will then have a tool installed that says that if you've logged in, it'll hit their website, and it'll confirm that you have an account. And then it'll grant you access into your software. So you need an internet connection to use Revit. Today, it uses your in-house server or your computer at your desk to confirm Revit is installed. Later this year, that will change. It will then confirm your installation via the internet. It'll hit their server, confirm you have an account, and grant you access. That's a big change. That'll happen later this year. So you'll have to have an account and be logged in to use Revit at that point. Just so you know. Okay, so we've kind of covered the interface here, and so what I want to do is use a live model to discuss some of these tools we're talking about because, you know, this is all very general. But again, this is an empty screen, pretty scary place to start. But let's commence looking at a project and using some of these tools to your advantage. I'm going to close this project. I'm going to go File. I'm going to Close. It asked me to save. I'm not going to save. This is like a generic name. No, I'm not going to save. I'm going to go File, Open again here on the Home tab. At the very top under Models, I'm going to go File, Open. I'm going to navigate to my class project folder and give me a minute here while I do this off screen. So here's my Revit for Interior Designers folder, week 1. I'm going to open up Support. And right here, I've got the start of the project right here. Summer Project 2020, week 1 start. This is going to open the file here. Open. This is the project you'll see on your end when you open up my project files. Okay, this is a 3-story house in Sedona, Arizona, and you've been tasked with creating the interior design of this project. You're given the core and shell of the building, so you have exterior stairs, an interior stair, although later we'll design our own stair, an elevator, and this is the first floor of the building because this says here, level 1. Obviously, these are cross sections through your building, and you can see the elevation tags here are pointing down. This would be north, south, east, and west elevations. So let's walk through the project browser here for a second. Double click on level 1, you're on the first floor. Double click on level 2, you're on the second floor. Now something happened here where not only do you have the building, but it looks like you have some landscaping around it. This is a topography map, and this hatch pattern here is dirt. So part of the site is underground at this level. Double click level 3. Again, this is the third floor of the building, top level here. Double click on the roof. Here's the roof floor plan. Double click on site. This is a site plan. You're in a balloon in the sky looking down on the entire site. Okay? So, if I want to see this project in 3D, which you will, and you'll do that often, you will click here, the little house, right there at the top of the screen. If you click on that house, it will launch a 3D view of this building. Click. And there's the project there. This is what's currently built. And again, we're going to go into the building inside and develop the interiors. How do you move and navigate this place? Well, this is called the view icon in the top right. Clicking on this cube rotates the model in 3D. So for example, if I want to look at the left side of the cube, here, you're looking at the left side of the building, there, in elevation. So click here, it rotates the building, and this is the left side of the building, what would be the west elevation. If I click on the top right corner, it'll give you the top right corner of the building. Click. There. If you want to see the opposite corner, click on the opposite corner of the view cube. Put your mouse right there and click, and you rotate around. So the view cube allows you to rotate around the building using these little icons here and clicking on these corners and viewing the building from different vantage points. However, the shortcut is Shift, hold down Shift on your keyboard and press your mouse wheel and go left to right. And that's the fastest way to navigate around your 3D model. You rotate by holding Shift and mouse wheel. You zoom in by using the mouse wheel. I'm zooming in. I'm zooming back. Hold mouse wheel and go push it left and right. Up and down is pan. And we're in a 3D view. Look at your project browser. If you scroll down here, it says 3D views, and I'm in a 3D view called 3D, and it's bold. That's the default 3D view you make when you click on the 3D house icon, the default 3D view. It just makes an arbitrary camera in the sky, and you're looking at the building from above. I've made two views called Northeast Aerial, double click, this one. I made another view called the Southwest Aerial, opposite corner, double click. So I took my 3D view here, again, the 3D house, and I saved it as a different name. And you can do that in Revit pretty easily by right-clicking on the 3D icon and using Rename. And that will save your view as another name in the project browser. So I can call this Rename, and I'll call it here JM Demo. So when I click on the 3D house, it goes back to the default 3D view called 3D. It's generic. But lo and behold, right here, it saved my 3D view called John's Demo. Double click, and it returns to that place I was looking at the model. When you right-click and you delete, you eliminate those views permanently from your entire project. So if it was on a sheet, it just disappeared from that sheet. So if I click on this wall, as I mentioned prior, if I click on any object in the view here, click on this wall, properties here, changes to describe that wall. Information about that wall is located here. If I hit escape on my keyboard, this goes back to describing the screen view. Nothing selected. So the screen information is recorded in the properties here. Until I touch something like this, and then suddenly this information changes to describe that highlighted blue object. Hit escape. Escape, escape cancels every command in Revit. Escape, escape. If you're not sure, escape, escape. So what do we have here in terms of drawings? We have floor plans. We have RCPs, or reflected ceiling plans. I'm going to close this because I don't have any designs there yet. I have some 3D views here. I'm going to minimize that. Here, elevation. North, south, east, and west. Double click on east. This is the east elevation. I've got 4 levels called 1, 2, 3, and roof. They are 10 feet apart because these numbers say so. These line up with the top of the finished floor. Finished floor, not structural floor. This is the back of the house. Double click on north. This is the north elevation of the house. This is a section tag. Slicing through the building at this place. It appears here in elevation. It'll appear in the plan also. And again, I'm just giving you a tour. We're not making these yet. But you can see from these elevations that I've got information about the height of the building from different places, different locations. The section tags here are here in elevation, but if you look at the floor plan, they're also here in plan. They're one and the same. So once you make a section tag like this, and section tags are located here, by the way, right there, section. If you click on that icon and click and drag your mouse through the building, it cuts a section through the building at that place. And you can move this line around somewhere. And it'll look from this location here, this dark blue line, all the way to the end of this dotted line here. And this is the scope of what you can see. I can see this far. So when you pull this closer, you can only see between this line and that line there, the dotted line. That's how far you can see. If I click on this, you'll notice here, it made a new section called section 3. If I click on this and delete it, with delete on my keyboard, it's going to delete section 3. That drawing view is gone here, disappears. We'll talk about why in a second. But anyway, these elevations and plans have sections. If I double click on an arrowhead, I launch that section through the building. Double click. That's what the building looks like in section from that place. If I double click this arrowhead, I look at the building lengthwise, longitudinally, double click. I've cut through the building in that direction. And you can see interior elevations of the model. And you can launch these tags from anywhere. Plan, elevations, what have you. And you can make more of these, and we will as we go along. So elevation tags, these things here, are here by default. They show up when you start a project. And if you move them, you can move them around to relocate them. And if you double click on the arrowhead, it launches a view looking in that direction, standing on top of the box. So double click here, we'll look at this wall elevation, which when you double click, is called the west here. You see how it's bold? That's the west camera, the west elevation. Now, if you delete these, you delete the west elevation camera view. So, unless you know how to remake these, I suggest you don't delete them. We'll make those later, but that's what they do. They allow you to look at the building from different vantage points, either outside the building or inside the building. Okay. So, we've got this set up here. I haven't made any sheets yet. And so we'll talk about sheets later. But I want to kind of give you a general tour of the project and how to navigate around the building. Now let's do something else. If I'm on the first floor of the building and I want to take a look at the interior of the building, I can also make a 3D view and look at the interior of any level. Now here's a trick. If I use my 3D command here, I launch a 3D view. But what if you want to see a 3D view of the first floor? Can you all confirm that you can see my computer screen? I have a report that my computer screen is lost. Can you guys chat me a quick answer? You can see my screen? Okay, good. So my recording is still working, even though someone's connection might have got lost. And also feel free to refresh your screen if you have to. Refresh the webinar and it'll bring back the view. Because that happens from time to time as well. Okay, I'm in a 3D view. I want to see the first floor of my building from this 3D view, not the floor plan. Because in the floor plan, you're stuck in a two-dimensional view. This is a 3D model, cut at 4 feet, looking straight down from the first floor level. So on the first floor, let's take a look at the elevation. The first floor is here at 0. 4 feet above this, Revit cuts through the entire model and looks straight down. That's called level 1 floor plan. Anything above 4 feet cannot be seen, like a typical drafting exercise. Whether it be hand drafting or AutoCAD, you would do it the same way. I'm looking at the first floor of the building, but I want to do it with a 3D icon here. So that's a 3D view. So use a 3D house, launch a 3D view. Now what you do to see the first floor again from a 3D view is you right-click on the top, you orient the view, choose the floor plan that you want to see. Let's say first floor level 1. Floor plan level 1. Click. You can now have, this is the first floor of the building with a topography. I'm in the top view, but I'm in the view cube here, 3D view. So when I click on one of the corners, lo and behold, I can see into the building from that 3D orientation. Now, this here is called a section box. Whatever's inside this box is visible. Whatever's outside this box is invisible. So this box is cropping your drawing. If I grab any of these arrows and pull them anywhere in the model, it will slice through the building from these locations. And notice it's slicing through the building right there, 4 feet above the first floor. That's why I can see the building like this. This arrow continues to go up. This one continues to go downward. So if I pull this one down, click and hold here, and pull it down, you'll see more and more of what's beneath the building, which is really just a bunch of dirt. See there? But you can see into the first floor of the building. Now, you might ask yourself, God, this is all black and white. I wish it was in color. Well, you can change the visual style at any given time on any given view. So in Revit, wherever you're working, if you change what the view looks like, it only affects that view. You change the scale, it only changes that view, not the rest of the project, only the view you're in right now. So every view is individual, an individual saved view, unique. In this view here, I'm going to go to this box here, and these are all my visual styles, and you might be familiar with this from AutoCAD or SketchUp. All programs do the same thing. They let you change the look and feel of the drawing. I'm going to choose hidden line, and that's what I'm in right now. Nothing happens. If I choose wireframe, everything goes transparent. There. If I choose shaded, everything defaults to its shaded color. Every object you build in Revit, every element you build has a default color based on its materials. We'll talk about that later, but you can see here that the model has some types of colors assigned to all the objects here. Here's the first floor, for example. I can go consistent colors. This has kind of a bit of an imaginary light bulb in the sky that's causing shade and shadow on the model. Well, only shade, sorry, there is no shadow. If you go consistent colors, then everything's flat. You see, there's no shade. I don't really like this method. I use shaded a lot. It's a little easier on the eyes to see what's happening here. There's realistic, where Revit replaces the materials in your scene with the actual photograph of those materials. There's some kind of sand here. See here, there's dirt right there. I guess this object here doesn't have a pattern just yet. I haven't really assigned many materials to this model yet. We're very early in the project. We'll do that later. Here's your elevation tag. You're on level 1, for example. And again, once it's shaded, you can manipulate the screen and view it from any given angle or up here somewhere. And if you want to see more of the building, and I'm going to shift mouse wheel, rotate around, which is what I typically use. And if you want to see more of the building, you can always click on this section box and expand what you see. So as I pull this arrow up here, be careful, don't grab a wall. Grab this arrow. It turns dark blue when it's highlighted here. See? Dark blue. Click, left button, click, and pull it up. And you can see more of the building, you see. The section box, see, the little box, shows you the building. Whatever's inside the box is visible. Outside the box, invisible. I'm going to go back to shaded view. I'm going to click on this box here. And looking at the top view, I'm going to pull that box right into the middle of the building, right there. Cut right to the middle of the building. And when I go back to the little corner view here, I've sliced into the building, and I can see into the building from these different angles. See? If I want to turn off the section box, I simply go in my properties, because again, this controls how the scene is portrayed here. If I go into here, right, section box, turn it off, and it's gone. So the section box only appears when you launch a right click on the view cube and use orient the view. So this section right here called section number 1, double click, is a section through the building, but I'm not in a 3D view. There's no view cube. So if you want this to be more dynamic, you go to the 3D house, you right click on the cube, orient the view to one of your sections, and pick it off the list. And suddenly there's the section cut through the building. If I right click, orient the view to the section of number 1, it cuts through the building lengthwise. But because we're in a 3D view, I can do this and see the building as a section cut. And slice right through the building and understand what's happening at that place where the section was taken. If I need to see more, I have to click on my section box and expand the box to reveal, here, click and drag, to reveal more. See? And you reveal more of the building. And if you're done playing in this area, you can simply go to here and turn off the section box and go back to normal. This is the normal place where you typically work in 3D. Notice that if I go back to my 3D view here, the default 3D view, it's going to make a brand new 3D view. Here, it's called 3D. I'm in it. So if I go to floor plan, notice this is still black and white because this here was never changed. It's typically set to hidden line, for example. I could also make it shaded. The walls get filled in with color. We can assign different colors to the walls if we like. But that has nothing to do with the second floor or the third floor or the roof. Every view can be unique. All my views are currently set up for hidden line. If I go back to the default 3D view, I'm here. The last time I was in the 3D view I chose shaded. Therefore, it remembers my settings and it maintains shaded. But I can change it to whatever I like. I can make it hidden line, for example. Whatever's easiest to work with your model. So that's how you navigate your 3D model. That's how it works. You pick a view here, floor plan, elevation, or you use a shortcut like these tags. Double click on the arrowhead to launch this section. Or, if I zoom out, double click on the arrowhead here to launch one of these cameras, one of these views that are looking in this direction, up from below. So south would be this arrowhead here, would be south. This is the south elevation here in your project browser. So whether you double click here or you double click on the arrowhead, it does the exact same thing. It's launching that view from that place, looking in that direction. If you erase the camera, you lost the south elevation, not the actual elevation in the 3D model. You lost the camera that's showing you the south elevation. And then you'll have to remake a new camera, remake a new view. And we all remember we talked about views are under the view command. I suggest you look here to recreate camera views of elevations. It's probably in there, but we'll do that later. Okay, as I'm working in Revit remembers everything I did. Every view I opened shows up here as tabs. In release 2019 and beyond, I believe, they have tabs. Well, actually, it might be 2020. I forget. It's been a while. I switched between the versions. These tabs here show me every single thing I opened up recently. So it's a shortcut to return to the last thing you saw. But after a while, this gets pretty cluttered because there's a ton of views you've opened. So if you're looking at something, let's say the first floor plan, and you want to eliminate this clutter, you want to use this command right there. It's called Close Inactive Views. The one to the right, this one, shows you all the views you recently opened. And you can see I looked at quite a few things in the project browser. It remembers those things. But it's a bit of a hassle to have to look through this list looking for something. Usually it's faster just to double click here in the project browser. So if you want to get rid of this clutter, then just here, use this command here to eliminate all the inactive views. Inactive because I'm not looking at it right now. Here, they're all gone. You see here? The only thing I'm looking at is the file name and then the view. File name, floor plan, level 1. This is the only thing that's left. If I open up the south elevation here, double click, I now have a south elevation view open. It's called south because that says south. Only because I never right-clicked on this and renamed it to be something else. Right? The street elevation, the alley elevation. I left it as simply south. I can rename it south elevation if I like. That's how these are named. Every one of these can be renamed. Right-click, rename, call it whatever you like. These are default names from Revit. Okay, so that gets us through sort of some information about the interface and properties and what have you. Now, if I close this view, I don't close the project. I simply eliminate this one view. If I close this view, it wants me to save because it's the last view that's open. If you close the last view, you're effectively closing your project. So if you're done with the work, you probably want to eliminate here all the open views and only have one left. And then you want to close that one view and you close the project and save. And again, if you're going to do this at home, I would go File, Save As, Project. Everything's called a project in Revit. In terms of your work, you want to save projects, project, and you want to give it a name. Like, for example, here, maybe this is your initials, JM. And then that becomes your specific project, and you don't erase the original. In case something goes wrong and you want to start over, always have a backup plan. Resave it as a different name. Give it initials or something. unless you want to roll the dice and hope you don't mess up this file. I've given you 2 files. Email me if you need any more in case you've done something rash. You can always download these again, obviously. Okay, so how do we get here? Well, when Revit starts a project, and let me start a brand new project. File, new, project. Architecture template, sounds like a good idea. Open. Revit starts with a project like this that has elevations and only has 2 levels. And the levels are level 1, level 2. So the only reason why I have 2 floor plans here is because I've got 2 elevation tags here. These tags, if I double click on them, just like the section tags, are hyperlinks. If I double click on this little tag, it launches the second floor right there. Second floor of the building. It's highlighted here. So if I ever were to go into the elevation tags and erase these, like I do a camera of the elevations, right? If I go into level 1 and I erase one of these tags here, for example, you erase the camera here, east, north, south, whatever, you erase one of these, you'll have to recreate it. But if you erase one of these level tags, you not only erase the floor plan, level 2, it'll be gone. You would have erased everything you did on that floor plan. All your work will instantly disappear. Okay? So the moral of the story is, do not ever erase your levels unless you know exactly what you're doing. Because this will erase all your work instantly from that floor. Not only will you lose the floor level, you will lose everything you built on that floor level. And then you'll have to meet your friend here called the undo command immediately. If you save your project, you're out of luck. It's gone for good. That's called a do-over. So do not touch this thing unless you know explicitly what you're doing. Now, if I double click on the little number here, I can change this to 12. And now the first and second floor levels are 12 feet apart. If I double click on this and make this 10, they're now 10 feet apart. These two are now 10 feet apart. When I start drawing, I have to make that consideration that these are 10 feet apart. So all these objects here do something very specific. And we'll cover this in a future class, but I want to make that clear. I also have 3 tabs open in this project. I've got 1 tab open in a previous project. So here, it'll tell me which projects are open and what views in those projects are open. So when I go to here and eliminate all my views, everything goes away except for 1 view in this project. Hover here, you'll see. That's 1 project. This is a completely new project called Project 3. And they're both open at the same time. So don't be confused. You've got 2 projects open, and you can see the names are up here at the top of the screen. And they're here when you hover. And they're here. You can always see what projects you have open. If I close this, I'm effectively closing project number 3, which I'm not going to save. No. So I'm back to home base. Okay. So a couple of things I want to mention, and we'll get into this as we start building, but we're going to start linking files into Revit, because your task this week is to build the interiors of this in terms of walls and doors. Now, I have AutoCAD files that show you where the walls are supposed to be. I like to see those AutoCAD files brought into Revit so I can trace them. Otherwise, I can just draw from scratch, easy enough, but I'd rather trace them from an AutoCAD file. So I'm going to insert a file into Revit, and if you were to guess which tab I'm going to use, you're right if you thought insert, because I'm inserting something into Revit. That something is an AutoCAD file. Next point, link tab, import tab. Now, sometimes I might use some pretty strong words during this class, because I want to really emphasize a point that I'm trying to make. And here's one of those times. Do not ever used the Import CAD button? AutoCAD, that's called inserting a block. Okay? So when you click Import CAD, it'll insert a CAD drawing into Revit, but you do not want that to happen because data from Revit and AutoCAD will be mingled in the same project file. It does some unnecessary things to Revit. It brings a lot of garbage into a Revit from AutoCAD, and you don't want that to happen. So what you should do is always link AutoCAD into Revit. Okay, so let's do that. Insert, link. Here's AutoCAD, link CAD. Click on that. Go to our project folder called support, go into AutoCAD and bring in, because I'm on the first floor here, the first floor drawing here, floor plan level 1. Accept all these commands here. Hit open. And one of the drawings is not visible. So why is that? Well, here's insert, here's manage links right there. If I click on manage links, these are the things that got brought into Revit, linked into Revit. So Revit, other files from Revit can be brought into here, but here's CAD formats. Here's the AutoCAD file that was brought into Revit. This is like an XREF list in AutoCAD. The CAD drawing is brought into Revit is loaded. Okay, and this is the folder it was in. And if it got lost, you hit reload from, and you pick where the folder is, and it finds it and reloads it. Unload it means it's going to hide it temporarily. And remove it means it's going to erase it for good. It's going to be eliminated from the list. Very much like XREFs in AutoCAD. So that's working. So another command in Revit you can use a lot is this one here called visibility graphics. Right here, it says visibility graphics overrides right there, that button there. Or actually, you can just type VG. Here's VG. This is where you can hide things in Revit. And AutoCAD calls these layers. Revit's a lot more sophisticated. Everything is a 3D model in Revit. The first tab are 3D objects you build in Revit. Anything you turn off here will be hidden from your project in this view only. Level 1, for example. So all these things, for example, the topography is turned off. Everything else is turned on. Everything else is visible, assuming you built something. Annotations, text, notes, dimensions, tags, those are turned on by virtue of these checkboxes. You turn them off, they disappear temporarily. But imported categories are things that were brought in from the outside, imported into Revit, like CAD drawings. Here, all this is grayed out, which means they've been turned off. Here it says show imported categories. Click on that. All these become available. Hit apply, and suddenly you can see your CAD drawing right there. It's on top of your Revit file. Now, I'm going to change all the colors of the CAD drawing to make them all some obnoxious color that I can quickly, easily see. Okay, so I go back to visibility graphics, or VG. You'll use this all the time, this command. You go into imported categories. All these layers here, you can select them all. And over here on the right, they have the column says lines. I'm going to override the lines. What's happening is it'll respect AutoCAD's layers. These are AutoCAD's layers. It'll respect those layer colors from AutoCAD. But if I override them, I can change them temporarily in Revit. So if I hit override, I'm going to change this to a solid line. I'm going to make every wall, every object green. And here are line weights. Revit has 16 line weights. 16 is a very, very heavy line. 1 is the thinnest line you can have in Revit. If you need to know where that's stored, what is an 8, what is a 3, I can share that with you in an email. 1 is a very thin line when you print. Hit OK, hit apply, and notice that all these layers are now green. Notice here, all the layers are now green. So if I see something green, that's AutoCAD. being brought into Revit. And I'm going to use that to do some work. I can trace my walls using that information. So when you click on the AutoCAD file, click, there's a little pin right there, a little pin stuck. See it right there, a little icon right there? That means you cannot move this AutoCAD file, which is actually a good thing, because you don't want it to be mismatching your Revit file. It should be brought into the same place every single time. So when I click on the object, it's pinned. If I unpin it, or use this command here, see this pin? Here's unpin. I'm sorry, there's a pin and unpin up here at the top, or UP. One command, if you type the command in AutoCAD like UP, it automatically launches the command. In AutoCAD, you have to type something, you'll see the word being typed, then you have to enter, and then it'll do the command. In Revit, there is no return. You simply type the shortcut, and it'll do it instantly. And I gave you a PDF of shortcuts. And you'll learn what those do as we go through the class. So if I click on an object, I can use that command right there, or I can just simply type PN, and it'll pin. You see the pin is in. If it's unpinned, here it says the shortcut is UP. UP, it's unpinned, which means I can accidentally click on something and then move it over to here, which obviously that's a problem. Control-Z is undo, or obviously the backward arrow. So you want to, and I'm going to cancel this. I'm not going to save. I'm going to click on this, and right here, the pin command is PN. Type PN quickly, and it pins it, so it doesn't move, delete, rotate by mistake. Okay, that's done. And if ever I want to hide that object, I go back to VG, Visibility Graphics. I go Import Categories, and I simply turn off the floor plan. See the floor plan? Uncheck it, and the floor plan disappears. If I want to see it, I go back to VG. It's right here, Visibility Graphics, right there, Edit. I go back to Import Drawings, and I check the box. And it comes, or I can just uncheck a layer here, and it'll hide those layers and unhide them later. If I want to click on the AutoCAD drawing, I can also go here to Query, and I can ask, what is this layer called? Right there. Click. It tells me what it's called, and I can hide it in the view. Do not use delete. It erases the layer permanently. You'll never be able to get it back unless you remove your link and make a new one. Don't use that one. Just simply hide it. What is this? Query. What is this? That's a door. I can hide it. See? It's hidden. If I need it back, I can go back to VG, go to my imported categories, see a door is turned off. Turn it back on. Hit apply and hit OK. It's back. That's how you navigate a CAD file. You simply turn things on or off that you want to see or not see, and continue about your work. So let's make some walls on the first floor of this building. These things here in green are interior walls. I've already built the exterior walls for you. So let's get in conversation about making walls in general. So let me make a brand new file, and I'll come back to this later. File, new, architecture template. Okay. And I might be speaking pretty fast. I want to make sure you guys get this information in the time we have. You can always rewatch the video, but if I pick up the pace, it's because I want to make sure I include everything I want to cover. And you've got the luxury of watching it later. This is the wall command here. Pop this open. You got different types of walls you can create. Majority of the time, you're gonna use wall architectural. This icon here is currently set up, right there. Click on that. Okay. The cursor turns into crosshairs, and you've got options. This bar right here is called the options bar. It only appears for very specific commands. Not everything has an option bar. I'm about to build something. The modify tab turned on. All these tools showed up. And on the far right, these tools here let you draw things. Right there. It says draw. These tools here. The rest let you modify things. We're worried about drafting here. I'm going to build something in 3D. A wall. This is the kind of wall right here. This is called the type selector. When I open this menu, these are all different kind of walls I can build. Right now, it's defaulting to generic 8. Let me keep that for a second. If I build a wall here, it's going to use these settings here on the screen. Here, the height of the wall is unconnected. It's 20 feet tall. It's using the center line. What does all this stuff mean? Okay, let's build something and let's talk about those. Click your mouse and drag. Now, if you hit Shift, hold it down, it makes the walls perfectly straight. Let it go, it goes off at any given angle. Or you can just steadily draw a line, which you got a dotted line there, and that's an alignment. It's straight. Click, and there's one wall, and it wants to continue making walls here because of this command here called chain. These walls are all chained together. Click, 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 click. I'm holding Shift. And escape, escape. Escape once, cancels the wall you're making. Escape the second time, cancels the tab you're in here. And now I'm back to ground zero. I'm back to the beginning. That's why escape, escape is the best way to get out of the command. So what's happening here? You see that Revit makes the walls and auto-repaired the corners. They're all joined together. If I go to 3D, it made these walls here. And why did it put them on the first floor? Well, it's because when I drew them, double click, I was on level 1. So the bottom of the walls, or the base, starts on level 1. How do I know this? If I click on the wall, it'll tell me right here, the base constraint. What level is the bottom of the wall located on? Top constraint. Where is the top of the wall? Now, unconnected means it's simply this number beneath here, unconnected height. It's 20 feet tall. Arbitrarily 20 feet tall. But the wall height, the top of the wall, can also communicate with any other level. So if I chose up to level 2, that wall goes from level 1 up to level 2. That's the height of the wall. Where's level 2? We'll take a look at your elevations. Level 2 here, it says that level 2 is 10 feet above level 1. So the wall, this wall, went from level 1, level 2, because this says so right here. When I go to 3D, that wall is now short. That's going from level 1 to level 2. Now, if I want the rest of these to do the same, I might put my mouse here and hold, I can hold Control and pick more than one. And now they're all selected, and they can all change at the same time, as long as what you're selecting are the same type of object. They all have to be walls. You can't mix and match doors and windows and walls together. Doesn't make any sense. But these walls are all walls, and here they can all change at the same time. If I make this 10, they're all 10 feet tall. If I make this go to the second level, well, the second level is 10 feet, so nothing changed. If I told this wall, I can just pull on it, and that wall arbitrarily is this height. It goes up to the second level, and the offset here is offset from the top. So offset from level 2, an additional 7'9". I can also type here and make that exactly 8. When you type in Revit, it's always in feet. 8 means 8 feet, as opposed to 8 feet 6, which is 8'6", or 8 feet 6.5, which is 8'6.5", or 8 feet dash 6 space 1/4 inch. That's 8'6.25". Hit apply, and that will remain here in the data, the properties of that wall. If I want to grab all these walls together, another trick is to, sometimes this works, sometimes it works. Press tab once, then click. And luckily it chained all these walls together, and they all will move simultaneously. They will all, for example, go up to here, level 2, and hit apply. And offset, you see offset here is empty. That means that some of the walls have an offset and some do not. Because if they were all the same, they'd all have the same number here. So when this is blank, it means somebody is off script. If I make this 0, then everyone's going to line up to the second level and be 0 above the second level. And now the numbers are matching. If I click on the wall and change the bottom number, base offset, that means how far above or below the bottom do you want to be? So if I type 1 here, it's 1 feet, see, it goes up a foot. The bottom is 1 foot above level 1. If I make this 3 or 4, it's the bottom of the wall is 4 feet above level 1. If I make this negative, it's 4 feet below level 1. And if you look at the elevations, you can see that there's a little wall hanging out here. If I click on this wall and delete it, it's deleting it from the entire 3D model. That will erase that wall everywhere, because this is not a 2D drawing. It's actually a 3D model. You're looking at it from the east elevation, but it's a 3D model. So once that gets erased, delete, keyboard delete, it's gone. So once you erase something, it's gone for good in the entire project, everywhere. So be careful when you delete things. If I'm in plan view and I click on the wall, it gives me measurements. Anything in blue can be typed over. So I can type here and make this 25 feet, or click, make it 30 feet, or make it, sorry. And these are arbitrary. Revit just makes this stuff up. It thinks these are important. If I go here and I click on the little dot here with a little, this is called a witness line. If I click on that little dot right there, it moves it from the center to one side of the wall or the other side of the wall. And these numbers change subsequently. So I'll make that 12. It's 12 from that edge to this edge. If I click on this dot, I can drag it somewhere else. Let's say I went to wall and I just happen to put a wall right here and drag it up. And I want to know how far it is from the face of this wall to the face of this wall. So what I want to do here is probably click on this little dot and change this number here. And then here, click on that dot until it's facing that wall right there. And now we've got the dimension right there. Click and make that 8. Whatever is blue will change because it's highlighted. Click on the screen, it changes it. It flexes the model and moves things around. So you can use this to arbitrarily drag things around, right? Or you can simply type numbers in here if these are important to you. If you want to take a measurement, you can use a tape measure here and just go from corner to corner and tells you how far away that is. Or this corner to this corner and tells you how far away that is. But sometimes Revit has good guesses. It makes good guesses here. You might just have to move these little object lines, these witness lines, by flexing that little dot right there. Just move that around, that one there or that one there. Whichever one completes the task for you. And just type in over. And that's how you can draw things in Revit. And the important thing here is to make sure that the heights here make sense in your properties. Another thing you want to make sure you do, I'm going to drag my mouse through everything, hit delete. And when I draw a wall, look, this says the location of the line is the wall center line. So when I draw the wall, this imaginary dotted line here represents the center of the wall. If I chose the face of the exterior, this line becomes the face of the exterior. Now, what side's the exterior? You see the dotted line is the edge of the wall. But the walls, all walls have an exterior side. It's the one with the arrows. That's the exterior side of the wall. That's the exterior side. This is the interior side. That doesn't mean outside or inside. It means side A and side B. One's called exterior, one's called interior. What you decide to put on those edges is your own business. You decide if the exterior has dripboard and the interior has brick, or the exterior side has brick and the interior has dripboard. You can decide that later. But that is what that represents. That arrow lets you flip the edge of the exterior, see? Because I drew it there along that edge. So you have the choice when you do wall command to draw a line from the exterior face or the interior face. Now the core we'll talk about later, that's different. And the wall center line is obvious. When I drew a center line, you see the dotted line? That's the center of the wall. So it doesn't matter if you flip this. The center of the wall is maintained, and the exterior will flip over to this side. But the wall didn't move because the center was used. Now, when I click on this, it says so right here, location line is center. But these parameters can always change. I can change this to the finished face of the exterior and hit apply. That way, when I flip the wall, it maintains that edge right there, which is the edge of the exterior, because that says so. Or I can make it center line again. Or the interior face. That means when it flips, it'll maintain the edge of the interior and the exterior changes. It becomes a variable. So that takes a little practice to do. So that's how we draw walls. Now you can also draw a wall, and here I'll do an edge of the exterior, finished face of the exterior. As I'm drawing it, I can also use spacebar, and I'll flip the wall over. Just hit spacebar, and it flips over which side is exterior. So you can do it now, or you can do it later. Makes no difference because Revit is very flexible. In 3D, this wall here is called generic 8. At any given time, you can make this exterior brick on CMU. Done. And notice this one has brick on one side. And to rotate around this, you want to click on the element. Cancel that. Click on the element and rotate around it here. Watch out, when you double click on something really fast, you might get some kind of weird menu. Just hit the check sign to get out of the menu, because you're going to be stuck here until you accept this tab and this check. These have to be selected. So I have to accept it. So click here once, shift the mouse wheel, and I can see the other side of the wall. Now, if this was realistic, you'll notice this side is some kind of drywall material, and this side is actually bricks. And we can manipulate that later. But I can always click on this wall and later decide I'm going to make it CMU metal studs. And this one's very fancy. There's a lot going on here. Let me go make black and white. There's a lot of stuff going on here. You can make it a generic 12-inch wall. By generic, it means it has no material assigned to it. It's completely generic. Out of the box, it's just gray. It hasn't been assigned any materials. You can make these walls smarter, different, better later by manipulating the wall. And so we will get into that for certain during this class, but today we're just doing generic walls. So that's how the wall commands work. Now you can also use other tools here. For example, there's a offset command. So when I say like offset the next wall 5 feet, 6 feet, and besides, instead of drawing rectangles and squares of different shapes, you can also use this. This is a very popular command, pick lines. That means whatever you pick, it'll draw something the offset distance away. So I'm going to use the finished face exterior, 6 feet away, and this means whatever I touch. So if I touch something right there, that edge, it's going to draw it 6 feet away. See a little dotted line shows up there? Right there. Click. And the exterior, because that says exterior, is this offset distance away from whatever I pick. 6 feet. And it'll be whatever wall I have here. But again, whether you pick the wall now or later makes absolutely no difference. All you care about is clicking on walls and changing them later to be the wall. In the beginning of the design project, you don't know what the materials are just yet. You might know you need a generically sized wall. And later, as you begin to research materials and thicknesses and what have you, maybe the structural comes into play. Later, you can change that wall to different thicknesses and apply your materials later. So in the beginning, it can be very generic, and it can mature over time. And you won't lose your work. You simply click and change to something else. So I can always grab these two walls here, and make them turn into brick on CMU. Okay, done. They're now both brick on CMU. Instantly. Click. This goes from the first floor, unconnected 20 feet. Well, I want to go up to the second floor instead. Hit apply. Now it goes up to the second floor. And this one should do the same. Click. Make this go up to the second level. Click. There. Now, the second level is here. It's 10 feet. Now watch what happens here. And this is why we use the levels here to communicate the height. If one day the level here became 15 feet, the walls will rise up to that number. If the walls became 30 feet, the walls will rise up to that number because the walls will always go up to level 2. And if level 2 changes, the walls will flex up to that number instantly, which is why we like having walls communicate with levels. That's why this is preferred. So if at any given time I can say, here, change this to 20 feet, well, look, the walls just shrunk. See, the walls are now 20 feet tall. If I change I can even change that here. If I make this distance 10 feet, well, then the walls just shrunk to 10 feet instantly because they respect the level they've been assigned to here in your properties. That's why properties are key. Really important to look at your properties. So I've opened up a bunch of things here. I'm going to close this out. I'm going to close all my views and then close this project and not save because it's a dummy project. In here, on level 1, I'm going to trace these walls. Now, how big are these walls? Well, let's do a little tape measure. From here, snap to here, 5 inches. Okay. Now, when you want to build walls in Revit, you want to make sure the walls go completely through any windows and doors. So I'm going to go to architecture, wall. I'm going to look for a 5-inch wall. Let's see, generic 5-inch wall right there. Click. Okay, ready. How tall is it? Here, the height is currently going up to level 2. Well, okay, let's do that for now. That's the beginning, options bar. I want to trace these walls. So I want to touch what would be considered the exterior face of the wall. I'm going to chain them. Okay, fine. If I go around a corner, I want the corners connected, sure. And here, it's not going to have a radius. So when I turn a corner, it's not going to be curved because radius will make a curve between 2 lines around a corner. I don't want that. But here, I want to pick lines that already exist. Pick lines. And I can touch AutoCAD, which makes this a piece of cake. Ignore the doors. Touch with your mouse, with the pick command, touch the exterior face of the walls. Okay, here. Notice that the dotted line shows up. The dotted line is where the wall will be placed, in that direction. It's going to go to the right. Click. I did a little partial wall there because it got interrupted by this door opening. That's fine. Leave it like that. This wall. Wrong side. Space bar. Doesn't work. Here. There. Click. This wall. Click. Maybe this wall. Maybe that one. And you see it actually uses the length of the wall too, which is very nice. Here. Make sure the wall is going inside the wall. So move your mouse up and down until the dotted line is inside the wall, right there. Click. This one, click. Maybe this one, and this one. Now, incomplete. Sure. What you don't want to do in Revit is build multiple walls along a wall location. You don't want a partial wall here and here and here and here. You want one continuous wall across the entire model. So I need to trim this to this. So go to Modify. And you'll use this command a lot. This one's called, right here, it's called Trim Extent. TR is the shortcut. You'll use this all the time. TR, constantly. I want to connect this wall to this wall. TR, TR. This to this. Done. This is called the trim command in AutoCAD. Now, I missed some walls here. I missed the wall here. So what you can do is you click on the wall, take the little grip, and just pull it down. There, connected. Pull right through the doors, into the wall. Don't worry about going beyond because it'll connect them like that, nicely. This should go through the wall up to here and stop. This should go through that door, and we are done with this side of the building. Let's do this side of the building. Pick a wall, 5 inches, sure. Pick command. Okay, up to the second floor, exterior face, no offsets, pick. Okay, this wall, this wall, this wall. Whoops, wrong side. No problem. Flip it right there. Click. Okay, pick more. Pick this one. Pick this one. And then TR to connect, or what they call modify, trim. Trim this to this, pull this, the little dot, over to this wall. Pull this up, and there you have it. Here's all your walls. How tall are they? Here. They go from the first floor up to the second floor. But that's a problem. The problem is here. Let's take a look at this section that goes right through here. This section. When you click on a section, you can also move it with the move command anywhere you like. You can see from here to dotted line, and you see the dot, there's little arrows here, and you can make it closer or further away. I can move it. I can flip it here. See the flip command? It's looking in the direction of the arrow. So it's looking at this wall right here along this line. I'm standing here looking in this direction. So if I double click on the arrow, I should see some walls right here. And you'll notice that the wall is right there. There it goes. First floor, up to the second floor. And notice, by default, they're -1 foot. In this project, I'm making the top of the finished floor to the underside of the ceiling arbitrarily 12 inches thick. This floor is already here. This floor is 1 inch below level 2. So from the top of the level 2 to the bottom of this floor slab, it's a foot. So the wall, this wall, is -1 foot below the second floor, level 2. And that's what it should be. And that's a good thing. Otherwise, it'll go through the floor and show up on the second level inside the floor at the same time, which, I mean, it'll literally look like this. It'll go through the floor and wind up here at the top. And obviously, that's not right. You can also take the walls and use arrows, and you can pull them down right here, too. You can change these objects in every scene with any tool that you have at your disposal. You can use these numbers here. These are called temporary dimensions. They'll move that wall around. I don't suggest you do that because you can't see a floor plan, but it's possible. Level 1 has a floor plan of doors in different locations. How big are these doors? Well, let's see. A little tape measure. This door goes from here to here, and it is, not sure why, it's 2'10". Oh, actually, maybe it's going from the door. It's going from there to there. This is a 3-foot door. Okay. Architecture, door command, right there. Okay, give me a door. These are all different kinds of doors that are currently loaded in your project. This door is loaded in this project. Revit has lots of doors. If I don't like these doors, and this has a couple measurements here, I have to load new doors. So these are called types, right? This type selector, these are different types of doors. There's a 30-inch door and a 36-inch door. If I choose 36-inch door, I can put it on top of this wall, and this is called hosting. This object needs a host, needs something to sponsor this door. Some objects in Revit can be built on the fly, walls, roofs, floors. Some objects need a host. A window and door need a host to support that door. You can't just arbitrarily draw a door standing in a space. It has to have a wall to connect to. a host. So I put the door here. Click. It cuts through the wall. And you have options. Escape. You have options here to flip the door. Flip it this way. Flip it that way. Okay, it's almost there. And under modify, the other command I would use is align. Right there, align, or AL. What do you want to align to? Click on this. I want to line up with this object here. Now, right there, the edge of the door. Click, and you're done. Don't worry about the padlock. Ignore it. Escape. And you can drop these in more than one at a time. The exterior doors are already here. Do not touch the exterior doors. Only interiors. So, door. This is the last door you used. You can put a door here, and there, and there. And then when you like, you can click on the door and you can flip it any which way you like, right? And you can use AL to align to there or there to there. And if it's not the right size, you can always click on it and choose a different door. Maybe it's 30-inch door. And maybe you have to use AL again. Escape. AL, go to here with that. Done. Here, that's too big. This door should be 30 inches. Escape. AL, go to here with that. This one. AL, go to here with that. Ignore the padlock. Oh, this door is too large. Click on the door, change it to a 30-inch door. And then escape to cancel the command. You're not making any more doors. Escape. AL, go to here with that. And those doors are done. Click on the door, you see the door's on the first level, and it's offset 0 from the bottom. Not a foot off the floor, even with the floor, because that says 0. The door has a 90-degree door swing. Sometimes it's parameters. These are all called parameters. Sometimes there's options here to let you manipulate that door. So if maybe I've made this 45, the door changes to a 45-degree swing. See that there? Some don't have that feature. These are smart blocks. They're called families in Revit. They have programming that changes their options here. If they don't exist, then you probably can't do what you're after. Find a better family. That sounds kind of rude. But find a different door family in Revit. So, door. I need a sliding door. I don't have any sliding doors. Okay, go to Load a Family. This is your install folder for Revit. Go to Doors and click on Residential and click on and use your mouse arrow and go up and down until you find what you're after. Maybe the name will give it away. Let's see, single panel interior. We got all kinds of different types here. Sliding, there's a slider right there. Open it. It comes in different sizes. Which one do you want? Let's say I want a 6-footer right there. 6 foot wide, 6'8" tall. Hit OK. That door gets added to your family here, your type selector. It's now loaded in Revit, and you can choose it and place it. And you see right there, it will cut through the wall and place the door right there. And if you delete doors, escape. If you delete any doors or move them, see, it automatically fixes the Revit model. If you delete this door, it goes back to a solid wall instantly. Try doing that in other programs. Door is there. Instantly repairs the wall or creates an opening for the door. So that takes care of all the doors. And windows work the exact same way. So if I happen to, not that this wall has any windows, but as an example, if I go into Windows, there are no windows loaded. Would you like to load one? Yes. I erased them earlier. Okay. Look through here. That's doors. I'll go back to the US Imperial folder. I'm looking for Windows. Windows. And here are all the different kind of windows you have. So what you do is you typically find manufacturers' products, like that window there, hit open, and maybe choose one of the sizes. Hit OK. That window is now available in your menu, in your type selector. Now we hit escape. Hit escape. I'm going to go up to the 3rd floor. As an example, I'm just going to punch a window right here on the exterior wall. Window. There's the window you loaded right there called 3636. Hover over the wall and click. And you've just placed a window family in the wall. Go to 3D, and you'll see right here, you just placed that window. So the family, depending on how sophisticated it is, might come with trim. It might come with, obviously, glass, muttons, trim inside and out, and go into your wall. And if you were to move that window up and down or vertically, it tells you here how far it is above the 3rd floor. So 4 feet above the 3rd floor, place it exactly there, that window. And if you erase the window, it repairs the wall instantly. So you typically want to go to manufacturers' websites and download their Revit families and use their families in your projects because they've done all this work and created these really nice, sophisticated families. But you got to make sure that the families are relatively small because sometimes they come with a lot of information, a lot of data that's just junk. And sometimes the files are created by freelancers, and those files are too big, like over a meg, for example, or maybe they might not even work well. So you're at your own. Well, be careful when you load in families that are not done by manufacturers. And even the manufacturer's files might not be perfect. So watch out for that. Click on this door, this window. It tells me information about the window here. And if I go edit type, I'm going to look at this type of window and edit that type of window. So these properties here are called instance properties, meaning that this one window in blue has this data right here. This one only. This one has different data here. Maybe that's 8 feet or something. Different data. These are instance, right here, properties. When you go edit type, you're going to change that type of window in the entire project. So whatever you do there affects that model everywhere. Edit type. What can you do here? Well, here it has all types of things you can modify. All these materials. You can change the materials. The little menus here, right there, a little plus, little button there that lets you launch a material library. We'll get into that later. That lets you apply materials to your projects. Here's some information about the dimensions here. But if you ever change this, I suggest you duplicate it right there. Duplicate. Make your own copy of the original. Duplicate. I'm going to call this John, or JM, underscore 48 by 48. Okay. And here I'm going to change the size of the window to 4 by 4. I'll leave everything else. So the window is now 4 foot by 4 foot. Every single window, well, I made a new duplicate, right? So this window is called 4 by 4. Hit OK. That window now grows, this one. And that window is now called John's 4 by 4. That's a new window. I can click on this window and change it to John's 4 by 4 window right there. And now that one's a 4 by 4. You don't have to just grab the exact size. You can modify yourself, assuming the person who built the family gave you the right access to the tools to make these changes. So the goal of this first week is to go into each floor here and link, again, insert, CAD link, the appropriate floor right there into the floor plan. And when it says it's missing, there's a warning. It's usually because VG needs to be changed, imported categories. Here, show materials, yes. Which one do you want? I want to see the second floor, not the first, second. Turn this on, hit apply, and there's your floor plan. Change the line types, VG, go to imported categories, grab that floor, hold shift, grab all the layers, and overwrite all the layers to be maybe solid, obnoxious green color, and then maybe one line weight. Hit OK, hit apply, and notice here, everything goes green And when you're done doing the work, just go back to VG and maybe turn this button off and the floor plans disappear. If you don't need them any longer, get rid of them. But do this work, at least you can tell where the walls are. And if you can't see what you're doing, you might want to make the lines transparent so you can see through the walls. You might want to make them shaded. Whatever one of these options here works for you to get the job done. Do the same thing to the third floor. Third floor has interior walls here as well. Do the same work here. Add some windows and doors. And go about completing the project for the entire first week's assignment. Last quick thing I want to mention is sometimes when you're building, and I'm going to go back, I'm going to clear out my views. Just quickly mention this. Sometimes because we're building these walls here as one continuous wall here, the last thing I want to mention is if you want part of this wall to be a lower height than another, then you might want to split the wall. And I want to make sure I include this. I drew this, instead of drawing this and building another wall here that's taller, I can split this wall and make each piece a different properties. So what you do is you click on the wall, and I showed you a line. Move is obvious. Here's right there, it's called split elementor. I can use that command, take the X-acto, and I cut through the wall. And then what that does, it makes two walls like this, and each one can be independent. See? This one has properties. This one has properties. But they began life as the same continuous wall. But notice here, they're still joined at their intersections there. And if you do want to pull these apart, because they will want to maintain the connection unless you slice them and then suddenly they're disconnected. So that's also helpful. Okay. Well, that's the end of week one instruction. I mean, a lot of the stuff for week one was kind of a tour of the project. Look at the before and after files I sent you, the start and complete files I sent you. Email me questions if you have any trouble with anything we covered in this first week. It's very general, but I would suggest you start new projects in Revit and try to build things outside of this project, and then circle back to this project and try to accomplish the creation of the interior walls. And every week we'll start growing and gaining some new commands and new expertise to make this happen. I'm going to close this project here. And again, this is where my file is currently. And if I right click on here and look at the view of the floor plan of first floor level 1, I can see what my walls are doing now here inside the building. See what it did? And you can load any kind of door families you like. Just don't load anything called curtain wall. We'll talk about that later. But again, we're not going to learn much this first class, but expect this topic to accelerate week by week as we get more and more into the software. We're going to really drill down into the different commands that are available and flush out this building completely from an interior standpoint. And please share any additional topics you might want to have covered in class, and I'll make sure they are covered and part of kind of introductory into Revit as opposed to more advanced. I'll let you know if it's advanced. If it is, then we'll have to table that for some future more advanced training. But please let me know if you have any questions about what we learned today. I have recorded the class. I will upload it to a private YouTube channel and share the link, and expect an invitation to next week's meeting sometime this week, ideally no later than Friday. Okay? All right, everyone. Unless you have any questions for me at the end here, we will wrap it up today. Enjoy the weather outside. It looks like a nice weekend. Please experiment and try to accomplish that first assignment I've posted, and we'll go from there. All right? Okay. Take care, everyone. Sorry if you have any issues with your internet connection. It varies based on the weekend we're running these trainings. But let me know if you need anything else from me, and we'll talk more. Thank you. Have a good weekend.